The Last Jedi is one of the boldest entries in the Star Wars saga, full of twists and turns that were met with both excitement and frustration. One of its most controversial storytelling choices included the surprising death of Supreme Leader Snoke at the hands of Kylo Ren. Fans anxious to learn more about Snoke's mysterious past and purpose were left feeling more than a little disappointed. But what if Snoke isn't really dead? And what if that's because he never really existed outside of Kylo Ren's mind? Let's take a deep dive into this theory to discover whether or not it's worth its weight in porgs. Before we dive into the new Star Wars trilogy, let's take a quick look at the original trilogy and the light side, dark side struggles as it manifests in an individual. As seen in the original Star Wars films, when a Jedi is seduced and eventually corrupted by the dark side of the Force, they are no longer the person they used to be. Instead, they become something akin to another individual entirely. Remember the sweet, lighthearted little bedtime story Obi-Wan Kenobi told Luke about his father in A New Hope? Vader was seduced by the dark side of the Force. As a direct descendant of Darth Vader, Kylo Ren has the potential to be just as, if not even more, powerful than good old Grandpappy. We've seen what powerful Jedi are capable of, as well as powerful Sith, but with The Last Jedi, new abilities were introduced that we'd never witnessed up to this point in the film franchise. During The Last Jedi's climactic showdown on Hoth, Luke Skywalker arrives to make a final stand against the First Order in Kylo Ren. Only, Luke wasn't really there. He only Force projected himself, offering the Resistance a last-ditch distraction so they could make their escape. The effort required to perform this insane feat of Force prowess ended up costing Luke his life, but at least he had the satisfaction of doing something meaningful with his life instead of wasting away on that island drinking gross goo milk to the end of his days. Now, let's take a look at Supreme Leader Snoke himself. Snoke was introduced in hologram form in The Force Awakens. He was established as the First Order's mysterious leader, a role akin to Emperor Palpatine's in the original Star Wars trilogy. He bore more than a few striking similarities to Palpatine. The Force Awakens might have introduced the character, but it kept his identity a mystery. Many fans theorized that Snoke could be a reincarnated Palpatine, or even Darth Plagueis himself. The biggest shock came in The Last Jedi, when writer and director Rian Johnson threw fans for a loop with Snoke's untimely demise at the hands of Kylo Ren. This was one of the film's biggest surprises, and culminated with one of the Star Wars saga's most exhilarating fight scenes. But aside from all the excitement, some fans were understandably miffed. Why all the build-up and mystery surrounding Snoke if they were only going to kill him off 3/4 of the way through the second film in the new trilogy? Was that really all there was to the character? Was he just an elaborate setup for Kylo Ren to take point and lead the First Order? Fan disappointment ran rampant, and Rotten Tomato user scores suffered the consequences. But here's the thing, we don't really know much about Snoke beyond him being the leader of the First Order and Kylo Ren's master. What is he exactly? An heir to the Sith throne? The Last Jedi didn't answer these questions, and the possible explanation is that writer-director J.J. Abrams has something big in store for Episode 9. Now let's take all this information and use it as our guide to explore why Kylo Ren and Snoke could very well be the same person. Since we've established the new Jedi power of Force projection as well as the clear divide between one's dark side and light side self, it's entirely feasible Kylo Ren is the one responsible for Snoke's creation. The dark side of the Force has been touted as a doorway into exploring new powers, both strange and disturbing. We've seen this in the form of torturing individuals with their own memories. Those that tune into the light side of the Force are able to project themselves as Force ghosts after death. But what about the dark side? There's so much untouched potential, and with The Last Jedi introducing the idea of Force projection, it's likely the dark side will get its own unique time to shine in Episode 9, with the introduction of another new ability. It was Reddit user Yeah Films who initially proposed the idea that Snoke exists in Kylo's mind, and that he manifested physically as a result of Kylo Ren's unparalleled abilities. Yeah Films posits that Kylo Ren's internal am I good or am I bad conflict could have brought about the creation of Snoke. He was clearly struggling during this time training with Luke, and this may have been his only outlet to give a voice to his darker tendencies and thoughts. Because of Kylo Ren's struggles and the mystery surrounding his powers, he wouldn't have even realized what he was doing. Kylo Ren has barely scratched the surface of his true potential, and neither he nor the audience knows what he's fully capable of. But what good is a theory without solid evidence? Let's take some time to break down some of the reasons we think think this theory holds water. So look, we know Rian Johnson has his reasons for why Snoke's backstory was left by the wayside in The Last Jedi. According to an interview he did with the Los Angeles Times around the release of the film, he admitted that he'd written his script before The Force Awakens had even been released. There was no craze or interest surrounding Snoke's true identity. Although Johnson admitted it might be cool to learn more about Snoke in a spin-off or side story, he felt his take was the next best step for the new trilogy's story. A sudden examination of Snoke's past, complete with a stereotypical villain monologuing moment, didn't have a good fit within his narrative. But what if Johnson is putting everyone on, and he really does know the reasons why Snoke's backstory wasn't revealed? This wouldn't be the first time someone associated with the Star Wars films had intentionally misdirected fans in order to get the most out of a surprise. Maybe this is a reveal they're saving for Episode 9, where it'll turn out that Snoke is a creation of Kylo Ren's subconscious. Think about it. In The Force Awakens, Snoke only appears in hologram form in a single location. The only people who have access to Snoke are General Hux and Kylo Ren. This carries through to The Last Jedi, with the exception of those hip and happening Red Guards who have little to no interaction with Snoke. And what about all those conversations about how Ben Solo was seduced to the dark side of the Force by Snoke? Don't those sound just a teensy-weensy bit similar to Obi-Wan's descriptions of Anakin being seduced by Vader? Kylo Ren has always idealized his grandfather, and is most likely well-versed in Darth Vader's history with the dark side of the Force. He's probably well aware of Vader's relationship to Emperor Palpatine as well. This is all to say it's not unrealistic for Kylo Ren's thoughts to manifest as a mentorship between himself and a more powerful being that is strong in the ways of the Force. We all know about this franchise's tendency to circle back on itself, revisiting similar themes and storylines. While the death of Snoke might have killed those chances, if Snoke is indeed a part of Kylo Ren's subconscious, maybe it's another way to echo the original trilogy and the prequel trilogy. How does Rey fit into this equation? Since their first meeting, Kylo Ren has felt a connection with her. If you ask us, torturing someone is always the best icebreaker, and the ideal way to start any relationship. What if this meeting was more fateful than either Rey or Kylo Ren realized? It's possible that once he'd realized he and Rey had a connection, Kylo Ren made a decision to kill the part of him that was causing him conflict, aka Snoke. He didn't need Snoke anymore. He'd found something real that he could latch onto, something that would give him the means to not feel so alone anymore. This then posits that Kylo Ren, functioning as Snoke, decided to create the Force connection that bridged him and Rey in The Last Jedi. If we want to believe Kylo Ren's behavior is no better than that of a spoiled little brat, this theory falls right in line. It also reinforces the idea of Kylo Ren deciding to move beyond the simple trappings of dark side versus light side, or good versus evil, and pave his own way. He doesn't need his father Han Solo anymore, or his master Supreme Leader Snoke for that matter. From this point on, Kylo Ren decides what's right for Kylo Ren. This brings us to our final question. If Yeah Film's theory is indeed true, and it does turn out that Snoke was nothing more than a Force projection conjured up to represent Kylo Ren's conflicted emotions, what does it mean for Episode 9? Is there any hope for the character's redemption? Will he once more be Ben Solo? Or is he doomed to his demise under his Kylo Ren guise? This theory also suggests he may be even more powerful than Rey or anyone else had anticipated. If Kylo Ren becomes aware of the way he used the Force to create an illusion that fooled everybody, there's no telling what else he'd be capable of. If he wasn't even aware he'd created the Snoke illusion in the first place, imagine what he'd be able to do with a full understanding of his powers. Rey might have her work cut out for her if she has to contend with a fully unleashed Kylo Ren. This could also justify Snoke's sudden return from the dead, something that's been rumored since The Last Jedi. While it's ridiculous that he'd actually be resurrected, if he only existed in Kylo Ren's mind to begin with, this rumor could prove accurate. Now, this is all well and good, but it presents Star Wars fans with an interesting dilemma. Namely, if Kylo Ren did create Supreme Leader Snoke, and Snoke is just a representation of Kylo Ren's struggle and eventual surrender to his darker tendencies, this suggests a depressing ending on the horizon for the character. That's because this theory posits that Kylo Ren wasn't a victim of his circumstances. It wasn't Snoke seducing him to the dark side of the Force. It was Kylo Ren seducing himself. Whatever hope there is for Ben Solo making a triumphant return, redeeming himself and bringing balance to the Force in the process, would be all but lost. cost. It would be all too clear that Kylo Ren doesn't want redemption. Instead, he'd give in to his worst impulses and embrace his anger and selfishness, becoming more and more powerful and unhinged in the process. This revelation would then go on to show that Kylo Ren is this new trilogy's true villain, and there is no saving him. This is in stark contrast to the original trilogy and the Star Wars saga as a whole, which hinges on the redemption of Anakin Skywalker. It would be a truly dark and depressing note to end on. Then again, it would provide Episode 9 with yet another intriguing twist for one of the Star Wars saga's most interesting characters. It would also open up the door for new possibilities regarding the Force and its many mysteries. You know what? This theory makes way more sense than we thought it would. How do you feel, Star Wars fans? Do you think Kylo Ren and Supreme Leader Snoke are one and the same? What other mysterious dark side powers could be revealed in Episode 9? Let us know in the comments below. And make sure to subscribe to our channel. This way you can keep up with all the awesome Star Wars content we're churning out here on ScreenRant.